Hola, ¿qué tal? Bienvenidos a Chicanos por la Causa, Empodérate, Chicanos por la Causa first podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Ready to start our next episode here at Empodérate, where we love to create a space where we can share stories of everyday community leaders.
Exactly. And I just love how diverse our guests are. You know, we have how they say the pia pa, right?
Yeah, see.
And I want to introduce our
Yes.
next very special guest, President and CEO of the Arizona Animal Welfare League. How are you, Alessandra?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting.
And a longtime community leader. We're going to talk more about that. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's been so long since the last saw each other.
It has been a really long time. I don't know, 20 years.
I know.
But yeah.
So
a lot has happened.
Yes, absolutely. Full circle. We'll talk about that too. So tell us about your roots. You are originally from Miami, Florida.
I am.
Because we have a Miami, Arizona.
That's Miami.
Miami.
Arizona,
Make
¿no?
it clear.
Sí, el presidente, nosotros tuvimos un presidente de cuando estaba con ACLU, Roberto Revelas, que él también siempre decía.
Sí, es cierto, es minero, su familia.
Decía Miami. So I'm from Miami, Florida, and born and raised there. I was blessed to live in a trilingual household. My mother's from Brazil. My dad's from Argentina, but because I grew up in Miami, tengo como un acento medio cubano. Todo el mundo aquí cree que soy cubana. Entonces, en portugués se dice el sotaque medio raro, medio raro. But so that's where I grew up. I loved it. I was really blessed because I had Colombian friends, Salvadoran friends, Honduran friends, Cuban friends. I mean, it was just very rich, and I loved it. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. Anything specifically that stood up from your upbringing that certainly paved the path to community service for you?
Yeah, I think I was always surrounded by hardworking Latino families, and that was for me. My parents. I'm a daughter of immigrants, obviously. My dad from Argentina, my mom from Brazil, and they came to the United States before the military dictatorships in both of those countries, which was in the early 70s, 80s. So they got here in 1965. And so at the time, now it seems crazy, but at the time you already came with, they were given green cards at the airport, which was very rare, nowadays, right? So we were blessed, and you just had to show that you had a job. Mm-hmm. My mom had a job working at a bakery, my uncle's bakery. My dad was a cab driver. And they, were hardworking. My dad was a carpenter. My mother ended up retiring from the post office. And so we grew up, those were really important values for me, is working, on behalf of immigrants, and then just social justice and los derechos de los trabajadores, de igualdad y de sociales, ¿no? De derechos humanos. And so because they saw their families back home going through these very awful dictatorships, I think it was something that we really valued, just the privilege of being in the United States. And they were, they stood with me for many, many years. To a certain extent, it inspired me to do that professionally, for my work later at the ACLU. But they always taught me humility. They always taught me to just work really, really hard, give back to your community. My mother, even though she was a postal worker, she made $35,000 a year, $45,000 a year. She would always give back to the community and always donated. And so philanthropy was also always a really important part of our lives. So, yeah, I was blessed that way. Mm-hmm.
And how was kind of that transition from Miami over here to Arizona?
Yeah, with less diversity.
With less, it is, although we're super diverse here too, but it was different,
at the time that you moved.
At the time, right. So I went from Miami to Arizona and came to the state for my job at the ACLU of Arizona. I came for the role as the executive director there. And I had two choices. I had the choice of going to work in Jackson, Mississippi, where is also the heart of the South, and being involved in the civil rights movement in Mississippi, or here. And obviously, I really chose Arizona because I wanted to be surrounded by my Latino community. And it was, it's different. Obviously, I love, the Mexicans have adopted me. They're one of their people. I want to retire in DF, I mean, that's my favorite place in the world. But we've struggled a lot in Arizona, obviously. And I think the community has grown and is really, from the time when I got here in 2006 to now, like, I think we've fought back against some pretty awful laws and successfully, I think, mobilized and gained political power. And I think that has helped a lot, right? And there's been a lot of progress as well. And the community, I think, is very warm, very rich, very culturally diverse, and very welcoming. So I was lucky that way too.
How did that pave the way then to transition to the nonprofit sector through pets and in that industry, area?
So what was interesting is I actually, in Miami, I went to school to be when I went to school, I was a journalist. I wanted, my dream job would have been to be like an environmental reporter because I was, when I went to the University of Miami, which is after I graduated, I was a marine affairs and a journalism major because I wanted to write about whales, which would be awesome. So then I ended up doing journalism. I was working for the Miami Herald for a little bit, and then ended up like moving from Miami to New Orleans, which is where I got my first job at the ACLU. And then, just got involved. I loved the ACLU. I grew up, that was my first foray into the nonprofit world and doing political work and advocacy work and communications work. But around that time, then I really wanted, like, I still thought about going to veterinary school. Like, that had always been a passion of mine, I think, like, from the time I was little. And so I ended up telling my husband at the time that I wanted to go to vet school. And he's like, "You're not a veterinarian. Like, you didn't take any science classes." And so I took some classes for a little bit. And I was working at a clinic, but it didn't work out. So I just stayed, I ended up staying at the ACLU for 25 years. And then, to be honest, I know, not to get political, but I had been doing, it was like at the end of the first Trump presidency, and I'd been there for a long time, and I thought this was a good time, to try something different. And then the opportunity came up with AAWL, and it's still nonprofit work, but very different sector for me. It's still fundraising and people and culture and leading teams, but I had to learn how to run a vet clinic and run a shelter and like manage diseases and skills that I never had. But what I love about the work is that I have been able to do, the board really, when they hired me, they made the decision to really focus on being more community-centered as an organization. And I think at the time, we recognized as an organization that we needed to do more to support the pets that were living in homes. And we launched like some really great programs that are still going on today, where we partnered with groups like you guys, like Chicanos por la Causa, to start offering wellness clinics and vaccines to members of the Latino community. So the transition for me I've still been able to do a lot of that community work that I'm so passionate about. And I do believe fundamentally that the community is we're never going to be able to like solve our problems without the community, the strength that the community has. So we need to be able to leverage the community's strength and to help us address some of these issues that we as an organization are facing, like animals getting surrendered, right? Like people, they are struggling with housing issues. We receive hundreds of requests for surrenders. And so now we're realizing that we need to invest in trying to help those families stay together, right? Just like we do with the humans.
Yeah.
The pets are part of your family, right? And people will make absolutely sacrifices to keep those families together. So it sounds like a big transition, but I have, it's been great. I've been there for 5 years, and I've been able to partner with amazing organizations like CPLC to help us build trust in the community, because a lot of people didn't know who we were. Like they were like, in fact, we surveyed 700 Latinos. We were the first animal welfare organization in the state to survey 700 Latinos from the communities near the shelter. And what we learned was that people, they didn't know we were there. They didn't know what services existed. And so that really helped us realize, okay, we need to do more to address the needs of the community.
Yeah. Particularly also the role that pets have in healing.
Absolutely.
And it's so fundamental in so many ways. We see that certainly at our domestic violence shelter, how critical that could be, but also because they are individuals that they have chosen to be a parent to a pet. And so that also needs to be acknowledged, the role that it has shifted and is taking, that it's not just, it's part of their family.
Absolutely.
It's their family. And so it's really important to have the resources to make sure they address their needs.
Yeah, and I think the world is changing and that mindset is changing where, I believe and we believe that everyone has the right to own an animal, and you don't have to live in a certain zip code or have resources in order to have that benefit, like you're saying, where, the animals are so intuitive. They know when you're sick. They know when you're depressed. They can help you get out of depression. We have, families that have lost loved ones and have adopted, and that has, helped them grieve. And so they help you mental health wise, physical. And so that shouldn't be a privilege or a right that belongs only to the people that have the resources and who are wealthy. And so it's really about like, how do we make sure that those animals and those pet families have those resources? Because in the end, the animal's going to be happier in the home, right? I mean, yes, I love our shelter and we have a great shelter, but they don't belong there, and they're sad when they end up going there. So we need to make sure that we're able to protect that human-animal bond, no matter what.
Absolutely.
And I think also too, I feel like pets have a very crucial role in the Latino community as well, in the family. Like El Firulais,
Firulais, I know.
is always
El
there.
Solo Vino.
Yeah.
I just met a Firulais. I know. We have a Firulais. He's featured in one of our reports.
Yes, a Firulais. So talking about Firulais, so if Firulais were to understand English, we're talking about you. But also too, I thought that what was a little bit interesting too, again, this may be a myth and maybe it's not true, but I've heard that like Chihuahuas can help with asthma as well. I thought that was so interesting and just kind of.
That's interesting. I've never heard that one, but I'm not surprised. I mean, they would help you. Maybe you are, it helps with like inflammation because you're more relaxed. I mean, they can make a huge difference in your lives physically, and so I'm all for having a Chihuahua if it helps you with a. But we were talking about the sort of Firulaises of the world, but one of the things that we now are kind of understanding when we surveyed the community and particularly here in Maryville, like people were the average families had between 2 and 3 pets, and so and different they might have a pet that's indoors, they might have a pet that's outdoors, and then being able to understand the needs of the family. Like maybe that family, obviously the indoor pet might not need flea and tick preventatives, but the outside pet might. And so really educating the community about that. And so one of the cool projects that we're doing is we're working with promotoras in Maryville we created a Spanish curriculum on how to care for your pets, because people also told us we want that knowledge. Like, how do you put on a muzzle? Like, cómo se le corta las uñas, o cuando necesita vacunas, o cuántos meses, o cuántas vacunas, like all these basic things. And they want that knowledge, and so part of what we did was we created a curriculum, and we're training 50 promotoras from Maryville. We're working with a group called Unlimited Potential, and we're gonna have 2 trainings in May, and to start just educating them so that they can be our ambassadors, and then not just educating and informing the community, but then connecting them to resources also.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah,
the promotora model is so effective.
Yes,
and it's very innovative for you to bring it to.
Well, that was, we were asking us sort of about the transition.
Yeah.
Like the promotoras that we're working with, these are women that have worked on policing issues. Like they do racial justice, they do climate, they do, they have the skills they have the soft skills to be able to talk about these very complicated topics. So we're like leveraging those skills and then just adding a different topic. So when they go in and they talk about meet with a family, and that family, they're talking about cardiovascular health or diabetes or climate change. And then they see the fetal lice, and they're like, okay, maybe, hey, did you know, tell us a little bit more about what your needs are. So, and that was one thing that model came from social justice work that we did, groups like Poder and, all these groups that have been doing it really well.
Yeah.
And so like, we don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? It's just, we're testing it out. So we'll see.
That's fantastic. That's very innovative to bring that model there. What has been the most challenging aspect of being a CEO?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. The most, challenging aspect of being a CEO. So, and I think part of why I love being the CEO is because you can drive the vision of the organization and help sort of set that strategic direction. And so as the CEO, you're always planning like 10 years ahead, right? And so that's the way my mind works. And so I think I look at all these opportunities. I look at, okay, where are the needs? Where can we make the biggest impact? How do I not duplicate efforts, right? And so, but, a lot of times it's really about change management, right? And knowing that you have got a team. AWL is much bigger than my team was before. And so we have 100 staff members and they are experts. Like some of them are behavior staff, some of them are veterinarians, some of them are intake or adoption counselors. And so, change management that's hard, right? And so you as a leader, you have to be able to like be thoughtful enough to be able to explain the why and kind of explain, like help bring them along, motivate them. And so I would think, change management is probably the most challenging, right? Is to make sure that you're honoring and hearing people when they say, okay, well, here are my concerns, like here's what I'm on board with and here's what I'm not, and then figuring out, okay, like how do we address this and what's the right pace, right? As a CEO, you're always trying to like, figure out, okay, like what's the right pace? How quickly can I move on this? Should I slow down right now and wait till people get used to it? Because some people love change, most people not so much, right? And so you have to be really thoughtful about that. And for me, it's been 5 years. And so, look, this gives you an example of the change management piece. I, came up with the Promotora idea 5 years ago, right? I came into this role and I was like, this would be really something that I'd love to do. I found a funder who was interested in helping fund it. And it's, we're 5 years now and we're just now rolling it out. So, and because you're building programs, you're hiring staff, like you're then sustaining it.
We get
you guys
it.
know it all.
We had the plan for this podcast 10 years ago, but 3 years ago we made
Finally
it
made it happen, right? No, of course. It takes time. So
And what has been kind of like either or like the easiest transition, like that you're like, oh, like I used to do this at the ACLU all the time and like now I get to implement it, or something that a change that you weren't really like expecting?
Oh, interesting. A change that I wasn't expecting. Well, I work in an animal shelter, which is really cool. And so I get to see, animals come in when they're, sad and scared and, and then they leave and they find their perfect family and they're so happy. And then they send us pictures. And so just being around the animals whenever I want, I can bring them up to the office, I can hang out with them. That is something that is really nice for your mental health and like compassion fatigue, right? And I think I've really enjoyed I really have, which is surprising to me, that I have enjoyed the operational side of it because it's so different than the work I did at the ACLU, which was very policy driven and like strategy, like political strategy and like legislative strategy. And then, here it's more like operational, like how do we move for us? the goal is to get an animal into a home within 2 weeks, right? And so, but you want to make sure that they have veterinary care, behavior support, all the things they need. But ultimately, the goal is to get them quickly into a home, right? So that's been fascinating to me, but it's been a big learning curve. So I've had to, you rely on other experts, and you go to conferences, you try to read as much about it, and then, figure out, okay, how do I adopt some of these best practices to get us to where we need to be? So that's been, because I'm not an operations person. That was, so I'm surprised that I really enjoyed it a lot more. But fundraising is what I've always, as CEO, you all work for
always.
a
You
mission
just came
driven.
from a tour with the donors. So it's always there.
It is, and it is as a mission driven organization, that's your number one priority. And typically the CEO, for those listeners who are interested in that, like you, and it's relationship building. It's like the supporters who donate to us are amazing people, super generous. And I've learned so much from them, just how giving and generous and philanthropic they are. And so that is, I think, to a certain extent, what the CEO brings to the table. And a lot of times you're driving and raising most of the money. So that was something that I did also at ACLU, which I love. So.
And an important role in the supporting system many times is our volunteers.
Absolutely, yes. Oh yeah, we have 350 volunteers.
Wow.
So a lot of volunteers, and they are involved in all aspects of our organization. So from walking the dogs to helping with our, behavior program to, helping in the medical clinics, we do offsite clinics like the ones we did at the Carl Hayden Community Center, and we do so we need volunteers to run those, like lots of them. So, and they've been really instrumental to our work, and we couldn't do that without them. So.
And what is it kind of like to kind of say, like, maybe like full circle, like, you said that your mom's used to always give back to the community.
I know,
and now
she did,
you give back to the community as well. What is that kind of growing up and kind of continuing that?
I think that's really important for families, as a value to give back, and philanthropy is an important value for many families. There are people that have the capacity but might not necessarily be philanthropic, and that's okay. But when you have that perfect, where you do have the capacity, or even in like my mom's case, like I said, she made, she worked as a postal worker, right? And so she still would give her, for her, the impact, she still felt like she was making an impact, and she was, right? She was donating monthly and brought her so much joy. And I think that's for families and for individuals, like that's what fundraising and philanthropy does. It brings you your joy. I spend a lot of time talking to donors about that. Like, what's your joy? Like, what kind of impact do you want to make? And so those are the really fun conversations to have. And so coming back full circle, and for me and my husband, like we do prioritize that, right? He is a judge, and we still prioritize like supporting Latino attorneys and students to become, lawyers, and particularly Latino lawyers, and we support animals too. So I think that's what drives us.
Do you feel that unconsciously or consciously your background shapes the way you lead? Having working parents, immigrant parents from South America, but then be embraced by the Mexican community as well, being trying to define yourself when people are maybe have a misconception of who you are or where you came from?
Yeah, no, all the time. People look at me and they're like, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hola, ¿cómo estás?" When I'm hiking, because I live in South Phoenix, and so I hike all the time that mountain, and they're like, "Hablas español?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Sometimes they're like, "Are you the boss, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah." But it absolutely shapes who I am and how I show up for my community and for my in my roles. And it is, for me, it's really important, right? I can't really deny that, and I think it helps make me a better leader. I think it helps me make and a lot of times we're making, for me, it's easy to like it's very important for me to support my community and to not just provide services in the community, but to like when we surveyed people, they were like, we don't want organizaciones fantasmas, no, but it's like to empower the community. Like my vision here in Maryville would be like, I want to have like 100 pet owners lobbying the city of Phoenix for like, hey, we're going to do our own lobbying so we can get some money for, spay and neuter. For, like that should be, and so, just how do we genuinely engage the community in like solving problems, right? Whether it's animal welfare or civil rights abuses, like we need to really, that's where the solutions are going to come from. And so to be able to do that in my role now, even in the animal welfare space, is like pretty amazing, because it is why AAWL stands out. And I think it's because of I'm in this role.
Yes.
Like we have not, it has not been a focus of ours. But the board, like I said, made a strategic decision in 2021 to say, okay, we're going to adopt more community, become more of a community-centered organization where we're going to have programs in the community, and we're going to be thoughtful about leveraging the community's strength. And so that is driven by, and me and my team and the board. And so, I think that's partly why they hired me. I hope so.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
You're just adding hats. Like you're bringing your advocacy, your legislative experience, and a policy experience into this sector. Like I never would have pictured. Yes, pet owners advocating for change.
Absolutely.
That's
and like training.
amazing.
And training them on how to go down and meet with the city of Phoenix and say, because when we surveyed them, they said, you know what we want? Like, we don't have sidewalks. We don't have trash cans for our poop bags. Like, why is it that other communities have that? We have dogs. Like, it would be nice to be able to walk our dog on the sidewalk or in a park, and so what would it look like if they were lobbying for that, right? And the city of Phoenix was saying, you know what? We need a dog park in Maryville, So, yeah.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
I guess it's just, oh my God, I cannot speak. It's like two words trying to come together. I feel like it's just like it gets overseen in
Absolutely.
a sense. You don't, if you don't have a dog, like you don't think about those things until you have a dog. You're
Right.
like, oh wait, I want to take my dog. And, especially right now, obviously we live in Arizona. It's
Right.
hot.
Right.
So it's kind of limited where you can take your dog at what time you can take your dog. 'Cause
Exactly.
Also, you don't want to burn their little paws.
Their little paws. I know. Of course.
What advice would you give to your younger self? I know this is the
My gosh.
that's the question that you always get. But I'm curious about, especially when you first, transitioned and decided to go into certainly ACLU and dive into the atmosphere that Arizona was at the time, especially even recognized nationally on where the space was and how much we needed fighters like yourself. So what advice would you give?
My younger self. Yeah, I think that I would definitely say, your values are important, right? Like know what they are, like have that self-realization about what are the things that are important to you, and make sure that the organization that you're working for, that those values are aligned, because when that happens, it's magic. And I've been really lucky in that, certainly when I was at the ACLU, that happened. And so I grew up there and it's okay when they don't align, but you can, but just at least acknowledge that, and then be open, be curious, and be willing to learn. I think that was, if I had to go back and be open to feedback, because I think a lot of the people that I worked with, the leaders, the civil rights leaders, like the Roberto Reveles, right? The Danny Ortegas of the world, who Viridiana Hernandez, right?
Yeah.
She was very involved in a lot of, and so a lot of really amazing leaders that you learn from, whether they were, the young kind of leaders at the moment, or they had a lot more experience, like just being open to learning and having that mindset, for the curious mindset, right? Is to, and then I think also being open to collaboration, because I feel like in any setting that you're in any job or in any role, you're going to be expected to lean into conflict and figure out a solution. That's where you're collaborating, right? You're collaborating with your colleagues. You're collaborating with people that might not agree with your strategy. They might not agree with your values, where the values clash. You might be at the same organization, right? And so you could be at CPLC, and like for me, accountability means accountability to community. Somebody else, accountability could mean, meeting a deadline, right? Very different, same value, but you interpret it differently. So just being open to leaning into those difficult conversations and then being able to collaborate. So a lot of times when you were my younger self probably had one strategy in mind, right? And you're like, that's what I think we should do. So
yeah, being able to be flexible.
Yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time talking to my kids about that. They have to be resilient and flexible.
Exactly. And talking about your kids, I know you said you have a couple of kids too. What is that kind of like, seeing it through their eyes now, now being a mother, your mom guided you, now, you're guiding the next generation.
I know. It's like, I am so proud of them when I, see what they're doing in their lives. And when they, I have one daughter who's volunteering at a teen helpline, and a son who's interested in public housing, and so they are kind of interested in a lot of those social justice issues, which makes me really, really proud that they also want to, give back. And, they do. I think they're much better about work-life balance than we were at the time, right?
Yes, and their boundaries.
They do
and
have
setting boundaries, right?
Yes,
early on.
they do have those, and I think that's a good skill, right? They don't have that sort of that savior mentality, right? Which is not good for anyone, right? Like, they set boundaries, they know how to say no, and I think that's an important, skill as well, right? So that, but yeah, I have twins who are 18, who just turned 18 and are about to graduate. So and then we'll be empty nesters.
Oh, how exciting. What are they doing now?
You mean today?
Or like, what are
they're going to be graduating soon, and it's going to be a house divided. So we're going to have one at U of A and the other one at ASU.
Oh, wow.
And then I have another one at NAU.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, my
so
goodness, a 3-state university.
It's a 3-state university, yeah.
Nobody wanted to go to the U?
Nobody wanted to go to the. You mean U of
U Miami?
U Miami? No. We couldn't afford that. So that we could. But my son does go to Fordham in the Bronx, so he's up there. Yeah.
How exciting!
Yeah, the U. That's right. They're really into it because of what's her name? The podcaster who's over there too, Alex
Earle.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I just remember because my friend is looking into going into the law school there.
Oh, yes.
We keep going now, so being like, the U, because like they
the
go
U,
like this.
Yeah, all about the U.
yeah, the little song. That's what I was thinking about it.
That's awesome. Alessandra, thank you so much. I know being a nonprofit leader, it's a job that keeps you up at night with so many and not enough resources many times, having to pivot and being flexible, being a fundraiser all the time. And I know you had to be with donors today and then with staff, I'm pretty sure, and then strategy meetings and so forth. So we appreciate the time that you took to come here and reconnect with our audience and share your knowledge today. Thank you.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Thank
you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you.
And we'll see you guys very soon.